So hi everybody, my name is Emma Fritz. I'm a marketing coordinator here at Success. And on behalf of our team, I want to thank you for spending part of your extra day, your leap day, with us here for our webinar on Microsoft's Power Platform, where to start and how to use it to increase productivity. Today you'll be hearing from Dee Ramos, Success's continuous improvement engineer. She'll guide us through several Power Apps, through demos, tips and tricks, and insight on how to get started for yourself. We'll also have Anthony from Ingram Micro on the call, and he can answer any questions at the end that you might have about licensing. So before we dive into Dee's awesome presentation, I have just a few housekeeping items to cover. So first of all, this webinar is being recorded, so we'll be sending out the recording along with a few extra resources for you within the next couple days, so you can look out for that. And then if there are any questions, please go ahead and drop them in the chat. Throughout the presentation is just fine, but since we have lots of content to get through, we'll leave time at the end for questions. So we'll answer all of them after the presentation. And then lastly, as a virtual etiquette reminder, we ask that you please remain on mute if you are not speaking or asking a question. So with that, I'll hand it over to Dee to get us started.
All right, thanks, Emma. So yes, my name is Dee, and in the Microsoft world, I am considered a citizen developer. So to give a little bit of background about myself and how I've gotten to this point, I don't have any type of coding or developer background at all. So my resume actually mostly consists of administrative tasks. I've done things like payroll, accounts receivable, and that kind of finance part of the businesses. And because when I was in those roles, what I like to do is that, so take example of payroll, I would know every other week, right? You run payroll, but I would challenge myself by trying to get that same task that I got done last week with less time, with less errors the next time I would do that. And so spoiler alert, Microsoft Power Platform can do that. You are going to use all of those basic administrative skills can be put to the Power Platform to save time and reduce errors. So where I started was a self-learning path. From there, I actually obtained a couple Microsoft certifications specific to Power Platform, and I love this. I love these tools. I've fallen in love with them, and I'm going to continue growing and staying in this type of area of Microsoft moving forward. So that's enough about me to talk about the actual tools, Power Platform. So Power Platform is a set of tools that Microsoft provides us that are no code, low code, meant to build business applications. So most of us are familiar with like the productivity tools. So if you know Teams, Outlook, Excel, we all generally understand the basics of those tools, but becoming, for example, an expert of Excel only, that is a little bit harder to achieve, and not everybody can consider themselves experts at Excel. So we can use that, whoa, sorry, way too fast. When you use that same idea with the Power Platform, becoming an expert at everything within the Power Platform is going to be a hard task to accomplish. There's Microsoft MVPs that actually only specialize in one of the tools within Power Platform, and they still have achieved that MVP level. So hopefully that helps give a little bit a visual of how big this Power Platform can actually be to benefit your business. Before I dive too deep into the presentation here and the demos, I do want to say that I will get into demos of how to actually use the tool. And if that is something that interests you and you want to learn and we can grow side by side, I'm totally open to do that. And there is also the option of, you know what, that was really cool. That's not something I want to learn how to implement, but that's okay. You can still consider me a tool in your back pocket. Give me a call, let's connect, let's decide what your end goal is, and I can help develop that solution for you as well. So 2 paths here. If you want to build a house, we can build one together. Otherwise, let me know the type of house you're looking to build, and I can just hand you the keys at the end. So let's get into the Power Platform stuff. So when we talk Power Platform, I noticed that a lot of people almost don't even know how to ask for help. And that's kind of where I wanted to start. So for example, I was asked to attend a meeting to talk about Power Automate, and I arrived to this meeting, and the entire meeting, we don't touch Power Automate at all. The conversation is actually all about Power BI. So that is where I want to kind of focus on what is on our screen are the icons of the 5 main players within the Power Platform. And I want to describe each one of them and briefly, because there's 5 of them, and I want to give demos of them as well. Also, as Emma mentioned, I am not going to hit too much on licensing. I will say though, if you do have Business Premium, you do already have the access to start dabbling into all of these tools and playing and testing them out. If there's something that you need more than what the Business Premium licensing allows you to do, let's connect, let's talk about your specific scenario, and we can decide better on what is the best licensing fit for you. And again, like she said, we can ask questions at the end to kind of address your specific scenario if needed. So let's get into our very first one. So Power BI, make sure I get the names right so I don't confuse people. So Power BI is the most popular, fastest growing of the Power Platform tools, and it's going to be used for business analytics. So this is a software that you're going to use to analyze your data with beautiful, rich visuals, and you're going to be able to create and customize reports to analyze the data that you want for your company in the way that you want it. So there's programs already out there that might have reports for you, and they might not give you exactly what you want. They're canned for the general public, but not specifically to your business. So let's use Power BI for that scenario. I do want to emphasize though that if you are going to use that Power BI tool, you just want to make sure that you are starting with good data, because to get accurate reports, you want to make sure you have accurate data. And then the main components within Power BI is going to be the Power BI Desktop and Power BI Services. The Power BI Desktop is a Windows application that you can download, and you're going to use that to create and start making your visualizations. And once that's done, you're going to publish it into the BI service. And the BI service is a cloud-based platform that allows you to view and share those reports. So next we have the Power BI demo. So within this demo, we're going to make some visuals. So like I mentioned earlier, we always want to start with good data. So here I've got the Excel spreadsheet, our data, and this is all fake data thanks to ChatGPT. And on this spreadsheet, I've got 2 tabs, a company tab and an orders tab. The company tab has 10 companies and their contact info. And on the order tab, we've got order ID, company ID, revenue, cost, and order date. And the table is sorted by order ID. So now that we know, I didn't mention that there's about 200 sales order on this page. So now that we know that the data is clean and good, we can close this Excel spreadsheet and we're going to navigate to Power BI Desktop. All right, so now we're on Power BI Desktop and we're going to locate that Excel spreadsheet and just import the data in here. So there's that spreadsheet, and we'll open that up. And then from here, I'm going to select those 2 tables I want to load into Power BI Desktop. And then I'll click load down below. And we're going to give that a few seconds. All right, so on the far right, we've got the data panel. And here you're going to find those 2 tables that we just imported. And if I expand those tables, you will see the columns within each of those tables. All right, so now the first visual I want to create is going to demonstrate the revenue collected by each company's sales. So under the visualization panel, I'm going to click on the funnel, and you're going to see a gray funnel added. And I'm going to drag and drop the company name into category. And then I'm going to drag and drop revenue into values. And then I'm going to make that funnel a little bit bigger by dragging and dropping. And that's it. You can see how quickly I just created a visual. So from that funnel, you can use it to understand the highest revenue company. This year was DataFear Systems, and the revenue was $279K. So let's add a second page, and I'm going to create one more visual, and it's going to be a little bit more complex, but still pretty simple to create. So on the visualization panel, I'm going to select the stacked bar chart, and I'm going to make the bar chart a little bit bigger. All right, and on this bar chart, I want to display revenue by company by month. So first on the data panel, I'm going to click the order date for the y-axis. I only want to display the month, so I'm going to remove the year, quarter, and day. And then I'm going to check the box for the revenue, and that's going to land on the x-axis below. And then next, I'm going to use the company name for the legend. All right, so the legend right now is along the top, and I don't like how the names are cut off. So we're going to move that around. So we're going to click on Format Your Visual. We're going to expand the legend. And under Options, I'm going to change this to center right. That looks better. So now I am going to quickly note that March and December are the two largest months of the year. So from earlier, DataSphere System was the highest revenue creating company. So from this visual, I'm going to click on DataSphere Systems from the legend, and you can see how all the other companies have faded out and they're highlighted in purple, the sales for DataSphere Systems. So here you can see that there are no sales in March, May, and September. And so it looks like every 4 months the sales drop. So if I was an account manager for DataSphere Systems, this might trigger a conversation to ask them if there's anything I can do to help maintain sales month over month instead of having those 3 large months and nothing the following. So let's add a couple more visuals. I'm going to add a multi-row card. So let's go back to add data to your visual. And I'm going to click right below that bar chart. And then here I'm going to add the multi-row card. And on this multi-row card, I want to display the company's name and contact information. So on the left, on that data panel, I'll check company name, street address, state, zip, and phone. All right, so let's make that a little bit smaller, and I want to add one more visual. And then also, I don't like how underneath each company name, it says the word company name, street address. So let's get rid of that. So I'm going to go back to that visualization panel, and I'm going to click on Format Visual. And under the category labels, I'm just going to toggle that off. All right, so that's better. So the last visualization I want to add is going to be a card. So I'm going to click off that multi-row, and then I'm going to click on, under Visualization Panel, the card. And then for the card, I just want to display the revenue. So I'll click that. All right, so now let's show you the magic of this page. So when we can click on the different visualizations, it's going to change everything. So if I click on this big green teal section that stands out to me in May, you're going to see how all these visuals change. Awesome. So you can see how the visualization on the multi-row only shows the contact information for the one company I selected, which is Technova Innovations. And on the data card, it shows the revenue of 58K. So that is the amount that's specific to the month of May, since that's the only one I selected. If I wanted to see all the revenue, I can click on Technova on the legend, and that's going to change that to 222K. To unselect Technova and see all of the revenue, I can click on that legend again, and that will remove my selection. Perfect. And I'll click on the multi-row card. I will select the Bytewise Technologies. And you can see how the bar chart has faded out all the other companies, and the dark blue is what's associated to that Bytewise Technologies. And the revenue overall for that company is going to be 249K. So I know I'm a little biased, but I think that's a pretty cool report. So the next one I want to demo is Power Apps. So Power Apps is used for app development. So these apps can be created for internal use only for your company. So an example would be like PTO tracking. And Power Apps does integrate well with the Microsoft tools like Azure. So it will have authentication. It is going to protect your data. It's going to make sure that the people who access data are going to be the people that you are allowed to access your data. The two main components within Power Apps are going to be the Canvas apps and model-driven apps. So a Canvas apps is what I'm going to be demoing. And that is when you can completely design the user interface by dragging and dropping elements, and you can design every pixel of that app. A model-driven app is going to be based on data models. So if you are familiar with Dynamics 365, model-driven apps are built on the same platform and have the same components. So think of Dynamics 365 as like a pre-assembled house for you, made out of wooden screws. Model-driven apps, it's the same exact wooden screws, but you actually get to customize and build this house the way you like it. So for the Power Apps demo, I want to use an example that we're going to create an app to collect reservations for a company event that we'll be having, and it's going to be a hybrid meeting. So let's get going there. So within the Power Apps home screen, we have the App Wizard, and the App Wizard is a tool that you can use to create custom apps by guiding them through the process of defining the app's purpose and functionality. So we're going to give that a try. And in the App Wizard, I'm going to type, I would like to create an app that collects reservations for an upcoming company event on March 29th. And the event is going to be a hybrid meeting. If the attendee will be in person, I want to collect their lunch order. And there's going to be a total of 4 lunch options. So we're going to click OK, go, and that'll create our process. That'll start our process. All right, so here we have the table editor screen. And in the center of this screen, we have a custom table, all sample data, and this is going to serve as a data storage for our app. The table includes columns for reservation ID, attendee name, attendee email. The next column name is cut off, so I'm going to click on the column menu and then view column properties. And within the properties, you can see the name is attendance type, and the last column is lunch order. So on the bottom left, we have suggestions on how we can alter this table to our likings, and we're going to use Copilot for that. So let's give Copilot a try. I want to alter the table name by asking Copilot to change the name of it. We're going to use the prompt, change the table name to reservations for March 29th lunch event, and click send. And after a few moments, you're going to notice that table name has been updated. Next, I'm going to instruct Copilot to remove the reservation ID column by using the prompt, delete reservation ID column. Awesome. And the next thing I'm going to ask is this attendee name. I want to change it to attendee full name. I want to make sure that we collect full names for these reservations. So please note my prompt is going to intentionally have typos. So we've got change the attendee name column to attendee full name. And upon sending, Copilot is going to implement the changes with the correct spelling. Perfect. And now I'm going to make that attendance type column a little bit wider so we can see the entire table. And before I go on, I want to highlight the significance of the data type icons. So they symbolize the column's data type. So for the attendee full name, we have a text format. For the attendee email, we have an email format, and the attendance type and lunch order is the same data icon, and those are both choice formats. So let's view the attendance type choices by expanding the properties. So with the App Wizard, it created the 2 choices for us of in-person and virtual, which aren't, this is insufficient for our needs. So we're going to ask Copilot to change that. So you've got update the attendance types choices to yes, I will attend in person, yes, I'll participate virtually, and no, I will not be attending and I will be watching the recording after March 29th. And then we're going to click send on that. Perfect. So we're going to expand that again to make sure the changes did save. And there they are. So, and lastly, I want to change the choices for the lunch order. So we're going to click on that, check out what we have currently, and those are not our lunch options. So let's update those with using Copilot again. So the prompt is going to be update the lunch options by using, update the lunch options to the chicken Alfredo, vegetarian stir fry, gluten-free chicken salad, or I'll be bringing my own lunch and not attending, and clicking send. And here I'm going to double check those answers again. And there they are updated. So I have no more edits for this table. So now let's click Create App down below. And that'll just take a few seconds to create an app. All right, so here's an app that was generated for us. And I'm going to click on this play button. And that's going to showcase the end user experience if I chose to publish this app right now with no further changes. So on the top right, you can explore the different viewing options for this app, which allows customization based on the device that you use most frequently to access the app. So my first option is a tablet, and if my company most often uses those iPad minis, I can preview the exact visual of what an iPad mini would look like. There are also phone applications for this app, and there's different examples there. And the last one is going to be the browser option, and that's going to be best suited for laptop users. So we're going to proceed down the path of browser, and we're going to select that canvas size. So when we explore the actual app, on the left, we have the quick view of the sample data showing the attendees' email and names. So if I click between these names, you are going to see the different reservation details. And then you can also see that David Wilson is going to be having the vegetarian stir fry and attending in person. So we also have the search bar along the top. And if I type in John, you're going to see the filters. The list has been filtered to John Doe and Mike Johnson. So selecting Mike Johnson is going to populate his information onto the form, and he can edit his lunch option by clicking the pencil, changing his lunch option, and then clicking the check above to submit his changes. Clearing that search bar is going to reveal the full list again. And then to add a new reservation, we'll click that plus sign and then fill out the form. Got an email address, my name, my lunch order, and I will be attending in person, and clicking send. And now on the left, you'll see my name will appear. Now we also have a scroll bar because the list now exceeds that one screen view. So if I exit this preview and I'll go back to edit mode. So if I chose to publish this app because I considered it was a complete solution, I would click save first and then publish. In the publishing settings, I can identify the users of this app, and it's also going to create a URL to access the app. So I can put this URL potentially in an email, or I could also place a button maybe on a SharePoint company-wide site to be accessed. For this scenario, I am not ready though to publish the app, so I'm going to show how to use Copilot to change the app, and I'll also show how to make manual changes to this app. So using Copilot, I'm going to click first on reservations for March 29th lunch event, and we've got table name label 1 highlighted on the left on the tree view. So I'm going to prompt Copilot for the table name label 1. I would like to change the color to red instead of blue for the background, and then I'll click send. And that has changed. So now let's focus on the manual adjustments. So specifically, I'm talking about the form. The form starts with an email address, and I think it would make more sense to input my name first. So when I select the form, I'm going to close Copilot, and then I'm going to expand the edit panel. And then from here, I'm going to modify the order of those fields. So by clicking for selected, it's going to display the current order, and I'm going to drag and drop the attendee full name to the top of the list for a more logical sequence. So now I have full name, email, attendance type, and lunch order, and I'm happy with this new order. So I'll close the panel. And lastly, I'm going to use the edit panel to adjust the column count of this form from 2 to 1. All right, so I think this form looks better and I like the app overall, so I'll go ahead and click save. So I think this is enough for the app demo. So if you ever needed to access that table that was created at the beginning, you're going to click that back button. I'm okay with clicking leave because I just hit save. And that's going to take us back to the Power Apps home screen. And on the left, we have tables. So I'll click on tables, and we did create a custom table. So I'll click custom, and there you can find the reservation for March 29th lunch event table. I do need to make a change to this table. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to open it up. And now we have the edit format, and I'm going to change the attendance type choices, and I'm going to assign the value to them. So down here, we've got, yes, I'm attending in person, and I want to update the value to 1. And if you're attending virtually, we'll assign the value to 2. And if you're not attending, the value is going to be 3. And then I'll click save. So those numbers are going to be referenced in our next demo. So that is going to conclude the Power Apps demo. All right, so the next one is Power Automate. So this is formerly known as Microsoft Flow, and this is for process automation. So you can create automated flows that can, a few examples, it could synchronize files for you, you can get notifications, receive data, and you can also obtain approvals. So within Power Automate, there's going to be triggers and actions. So triggers are the events that start your flow. And then actions are the things that follow. So an action could potentially be sending an email, updating a record, or retrieving a file for you. The very common flows that are used within the Power Automate are going to be the 3 cloud flows. So we have an automated flow, and that's going to be based on event. So you want a flow to start when a certain email arrives to your inbox. Or a scheduled flow would be every Friday, we need to send a notification to the team to submit their time cards. Or there's also like an instant flow, which is going to be based on a push of a button. So an example would be if I worked at a receiving dock and I am receiving 2 boxes of printer paper, the minute I hit submit, that is going to update our inventory and increase the count of our paper printer boxes to 2. So next is the Automate demo. So let's keep in mind that Power Apps demo that we started using earlier, that on March 29th, we're going to have that hybrid meeting. So when the attendees make their reservations on the app, I want Power Automate to distribute an email confirmation with the appropriate meeting invitation attached to it. Okay, so similar to the Power Apps app wizard, we have the flow wizard in Power Automate. And I'm going to ask the flow wizard to please create a flow that is triggered when a new item is added to that March reservation table. And then it's going to send an email to the registrant. The email that should be sent is going to be dependent on the attendance type of the item. So for example, if the attendee is going to be in person, they should receive an invitation with that street address. And if they're going to be virtual, they should receive an invitation with the Teams link. So we're going to click that generate button, and that's going to start our flow creation process. So here we're at step 1 of 2. What will a flow do for us? So here we've got a suggested flow. It's going to trigger when a row is added or modified on that Dataverse table. And then it's going to get the row by ID and assess its condition. So this flow doesn't really make much sense for our scenario. So I'm going to ask it to show a different suggestion. So here it's still triggered with the same action, but the action here is different. So we've got a true and a false condition. So the first one is if the person is attending in person and that's true, it will send the first option. If false, it will send the second email option. So this is more aligned. So I'm going to click next. Awesome. So now we're at step 2. Make sure everything is ready. So for the flow to work, it does need to access that Dataverse table and Office 365 Outlook. So here we've got the 2 green checks indicating that the connections have been made. So we are ready to create the flow. All right, so on this screen, we have the current flow layout. We've got Copilot on the right and a few invalid parameter errors on the flow. But before delving in those 2 adjustments, I want to update the name of the flow. So the current name of the flow is the original prompt we put into the flow wizard. So I'm going to replace that with March 29th, lunch registration. All right, so now we're going to work our way down the flow. The first item of the flow is the trigger, and the trigger is when the row is added, modified, or deleted. But let's focus on the change type of this trigger. So this flow was created with a change type of added. So if I expand that menu, you can see the other options that are available. So even though the trigger remains added, modified, or deleted, it is important to emphasize that the change type narrows the flow to only respond to added instances. Also, the lack of the table name is what's causing our invalid parameter error. So I'm going to correct that by typing in the word March. And then you're going to see that the table names have been filtered. So I'll select reservation for March 29th lunch event. And now the error is gone and our flow is pointing to the correct table. So next is that condition with our 2 options of true or false. However, for our scenario, we need 3 options, that in-person, virtual, and not attending. So we're going to replace that true or false condition with a switch. And to replace that, we are first going to click on the word condition to start deleting that. All right, so now we're going to click on the 3 dots. That's going to trigger the delete and OK. Awesome. So to add the switch control, we're going to click on that plus sign, add an action, and then we're going to search for the word switch and add the switch control. All right, so the switch control is the next step in our flow. So we're going to change the name of the switch action to attendance type. And it is best practice to rename all of the steps in a flow. It provides clarity and facilitates updates to make it easier to comprehend the flow at a later time. So the next step is to add the parameters to our switch. The switch is going to be based on the attendance type of the reservation. So we're going to use dynamic content to fill the flow in by clicking on the lightning bolt. And here we're going to select and search attendance type. Awesome. So to recap, when the flow reaches the switch control, the flow is going to examine that condition, and then it's going to proceed down the correct path. So we're going to have 3 paths. So I'm going to click on that plus symbol 3 times. All right, so now we're going to rename those cases. The first case is going to be the yes, I will attend in person path. The second will be the I will participate virtual path. And the last one is going to be the no, I will watch the recording after March 29th path. All right, so I'm going to quickly reference the Dataverse table before adding any more steps to this flow. So within that Dataverse table, since we're using that attendance type choice for the switch control, I want to remind you of the values that we assign to each of the choices. So that in-person is 1, virtual is 2, and not attending at all is going to be value of 3. So those are the numbers we're going to reference in the flow. So if I go back to the flow, and under the yes, I will participate in person, I will assign the parameter to equal 1, and that's going to mirror the value within that Dataverse table. The yes, I'll participate virtually will become 2, and if I'm not attending, the value is going to equal 3. And now I'm going to click save. So now that the flow is saved, we have that green bar along the top, and it does suggest testing the flow, and that is a great idea. You should always test your flow little by little, but for this demo, I am going to keep on going and I'm going to add a few more steps before testing at the end. So here, I am going to show next the 2 Outlook appointments that I have already created and saved. Okay, so within the SharePoint site under Documents, I have an in-person company lunch message saved, and I have a virtual company lunch Outlook appointment saved as well. Here are the preview of those 2 documents. On the left, you have the in-person company lunch, and on the right, we have the virtual. The locations are different, and the body of those messages are different with different images. So let's go back to the flow. So the next step in the flow is to get those stored appointments from that SharePoint site and add the appropriate appointment to the email confirmation for the attendees. So we're going to use Copilot to add the next steps. So I'm going to use the prompt, add a get file metadata and get file content after, yes, I will attend in person, and yes, I'll participate virtually, and I'll click send. All right, so the steps have been added. The get file metadata is an action to retrieve information about a file, such as properties and details. And the second action, get file content, is used to extract the actual content or data from the file. So combining both actions is essential when working with files in a flow, as it allows you to gather the information about the file using metadata and access the file content for further processing or actions. So you can see that Copilot added the steps for me exactly where I wanted them, but for some reason it changed the name of the cases. So this is a prime example how Copilot isn't perfect, it is growing, it is improving every day, but using Copilot, it's not an error-free solution. So we are going to change those names, and hopefully Copilot will keep on getting better and getting us closer to the finish line in the future. So we'll update those again, same as I mentioned earlier. Awesome. So like before, we're going to review each of those actions to make sure they have all the information needed. So in that first get file metadata, I'm going to provide the correct SharePoint site. And I'm going to replace that by using the drop menu. And I'll select the correct site, which is the demo team for Power Platform. And then I'm going to replace the file identifier. So we're going to open the file and we're going to find the shared documents. And then from here, I'm going to make sure I select the in-person company lunch, as this is the yes, I will attend in-person path of the flow. Next is that get file content action, and I'm going to do the same. I'll update the same site. I'm going to update the file identifier to make sure it also points to the in-person lunch message. Awesome. So now both of those steps are pointing to the correct location. So for the yes, I'll participate virtual, get file metadata step 2, we're going to do the same thing. Update the website, update the file identifier, but this time we're going to make sure it points to the virtual company lunch message from the shared documents. Awesome. Moving on to the get file content 2, we will do the same. Website updated and file identifier will point to the virtual company lunch message. Great. So for safe measures, let's click save again. And the last thing we're missing is the actual email that needs to be sent. So let's ask Copilot to add the send email actions. The prompt is going to be, add a send email after, get file content 2, and no, I will watch the recording after March 29th, and then I'll click send. Great, so Copilot did exactly what I needed this time. It added those 3 send email actions in the exact spots I requested. So I'm not going to use Copilot anymore. So I'm going to close that, and then I'm just going to adjust the visual of the screen here to add the flow, move the flow up a bit. All right, so next on that first send email action, I am going to address those invalid parameters. So what I'm noticing is that it requires 3 things: a to field, a subject, and a body. So let's first specify the email recipient in the to field by clicking the enter custom value, and again, dynamic content, which is that lightning bolt. And here, to retrieve the email address of the person who filled out the information on the app, we're simply going to type email and select attendee email. So for the subject line, it's going to be more correspondent to that in-person event. So we're excited to see you on March 29th. And then I'm going to add the desired email body to the message. All right, for the body of this message, there's certain elements that require customization. So instead of saying hi recipient, I want to greet the attendee with their full name. So I'm going to delete recipient. And again, we're going to use dynamic content. So here I will click on that lightning bolt and I'll type full name. And now it's going to populate the email body with the attendee's full name as it's entered in the app. Additionally, there's a section that mentions their lunch option. So if I delete chosen lunch option, I'll replace that with their actual lunch order by using the dynamic content and searching and selecting lunch order. And that helps personalize that well-crafted message. So the final step is to add that attachment from our Outlook appointment to this message. So down below, we're going to click show all, and then we'll add the attachment by clicking on add new item. We'll give the attachment a name of in-person confirmation for March 29th. And then I'll add the content by using dynamic content. And we're going to select the get file content. There we go. And this completes the steps for our in-person email. So next is our virtual email setup. It's going to be very similar steps. So we'll add the to dynamic content. And here we're going to type in the names. We'll add a subject line more tailored to a virtual attendance. We're looking forward to seeing you virtually. And then we'll add the body of the message. And lastly, we will update the name again to using that dynamic content. All right, and now we got to add our attachment again. So we'll click on show all below, same exact steps. Scroll down, add new item. Give the attachment a name of virtual confirmation on March 29th, and we'll include the file content from the get file contents 2 step above. All right, one more email to configure. So we are going to make sure again, we add that to from the email using dynamic content. The subject line is going to be regrets for the March 29th lunch event. And I want to point out that the body of the message already has text in there thanks to Copilot. So Copilot is going to give us a good start, but I don't think this is sufficient. So I'm going to replace that with a little bit more body. Perfect. And with this message, one last time, we'll replace that recipient with dynamic content, selecting the full name. So now our flow is complete. So we're going to click save. All right, so for some reason that test button is faded out, not too sure why, but let's close this panel here on the left. We're going to center that flow a little bit better, and I'm going to click save one more time, see if that fixed my flow, my test button. All right, perfect. So now let's go ahead and test our flow. So we are going to manually test this flow, and as a reminder, this flow is triggered when a row is added to that Dataverse table. So we need to use Power Apps that we created earlier to test this. So once I click test, I'm going to navigate to that Power App. Okay, so here's that Power App, and I'm going to click on new to create a new item. I'm going to enter my full name to be Jane Hansen, and I'm going to put my email address. I will be participating virtually. Therefore, I will not be needing a lunch order. And then I'll click the check along the top. When I click that check, it's going to submit my reservation. It's going to create a new item on that table, and it's going to start my flow. So I'm going to click the check, and I'm going to navigate back to Power Automate. All right, so now I'm back at Power Automate. We're still waiting for that flow to start. And once it starts, you're going to see the progress step by step, and you're going to start seeing movement on our screen. All right, so there it goes. So the trigger, there's a trigger and a green check stating that we have a new item created, and the flow has reviewed the attendance type, which is virtual. Therefore, it knows to pick the second path. It got the metadata, it found the content, and then lastly, it sent an email. And then here's the notice that the flow ran successfully. So let me go to Outlook to show the email that I received. So here's Outlook. And if I open that email up, you're going to see my name just as I typed it, Jane Hansen. And the email does specify that I'll be attending virtually. And it also has the attachment that I can save to my calendar. So I'm not going to be testing the remaining paths of this flow to allow time for demoing the rest of the Power Platform tools here. So let's get into the next one. All right. So Power Virtual Agents is the next tool I want to mention, and this is an AI-powered platform to create chatbots. So you can put these chatbots in Teams, or you can put it on a public website. The automation of these conversations can be used to engage with your clients or employees, and it can be used to answer questions without that need of writing code again. So the chats can be used to improve customer satisfaction. You can also use it to reduce costs for support. And it also could help free up your employees' time to focus on more important tasks. I will call out though, Power Virtual Agents is an outdated name. They've recently rebranded with Copilot Studio. There's not much branding out there with that Copilot Studio yet, but you're going to see more and more of that in the future. So next we have our Power Virtual Agent demo. So we're going to use Copilot to quickly get us answers instead of browsing an entire website to get the specific answers I'm looking for. So from that Copilot Studio site, we're going to click Try a Demo. And then from here, I'm just going to enter the Success website. And I'll start a chat. Click Accept. And now I can start asking questions to the chat about Success. So the first one I'm going to ask is, what is the phone number for support? And then it's going to provide me the phone number for support. It also gives me the choice to click on the link to reference if the chat actually browsed the website accurately and pulled out the correct information for me. I'm also going to ask the chat if there will be an event in March. And there's our response. So yes, there is going to be an event in March, and it's going to be called Tech Forward. And it also gives a brief description of what that event is about. So here, and again, there's that website if I needed to reference it to double check. And then lastly, I'm going to ask it, where can I register? And if I open this site, it is going to take me to the exact location within that Success site to register for the March event. And that summarized the Copilot Studio demo. All right, so the last one we have is Power Pages. So Power Pages, you might want to call it the newest member of the Power Platform suite, but it's actually been around for a while. It used to be hidden as part of the Power Apps kind of environment. So Power Pages is what we want to use when you want to make external facing websites. So earlier I mentioned Power Apps is meant for internal. Power Pages is now used for external users. So you can add very similar visuals, dashboards, forms, and views for external people to review. And we are kind of running close on time, so no Power Pages demo today. I will quickly mention that Power Platform works with Azure, which provides that enterprise grade level security. So there's authentication, user management. It will comply with HIPAA and those type of security roles. You can, again, identify who's going to be potentially an owner versus a reader. And there's also monitoring and auditing with these tools if needed. And then to get to the end here, what we're looking for is that we want to unlock that full potential of this Power Platform to fit your needs. So if you think back at our earlier example of that hybrid meeting, we started in Power Apps and then we moved into Power Automate. So just as this visual says, Each of these tools can be very powerful alone, but they're definitely better together. A few other examples that work really well in the Power Platform environment would be potentially employee onboarding. If that's a struggle within your company, we can help with that. If you're still entering invoices manually, we can also train Power Apps or Power Automate to scan an invoice. We can tell it which are the boxes to read, and it doesn't have to be a typed up invoice. It could still be handwritten, and we can still train these tools to automate that for you. Another one that is popular is there like a KPI? Is there a report that you wish you had? You already have all this data. We just don't have a clean report to give you exactly what you're looking for. So Power Platform works very well for you. So I just want to recap one more time. Like I said at the beginning, I showed you a lot of things here. If you want to learn more about these, I am more than happy to work with you side by side and we can craft solutions together. Otherwise, life is complex. We can still connect. Tell me what you're looking for. Tell me about your challenges. What's that polished solution you're looking for? And I can get that delivered to you as well. So I would like to use the Power Platform to help you pave the way to success. And that is it, Emma. Your turn.
Thanks, Dee. The chat has actually been quiet, so hopefully that means you answered everyone's questions before they thought of them. But now if anyone has any questions, feel free to type them out and we'll get to those. In the meantime, if you're typing out those questions, I want to mention Tech Forward a little bit more. Dee mentioned that in one of her demos. So this is an in-person conference style event that will be held at the Microsoft Technology Center in Edina, for those of you who are local, on March 28th, starting at 11 a.m. And we'll drop the registration link. There it is in the chat. It's free to attend, and it's a wonderful opportunity to dig deeper into the world of Copilot, into these Power Platform tools, and have a chance to connect with other business professionals. Dee will be there too, so you can connect with her. She'll be actually speaking and presenting on more information in a breakout session. So make sure to check out that registration link. Here's one question, Dee. Confirming that these tools can be used externally as well as internally.
Yes, so each one might have different connections, is what they're called in the, I did have a slide for that. We just wanted to, I included it for that to make sure we addressed all the questions. So there's like Power Apps has its certain set of connections, Power Automate has its certain sets of connection, but it doesn't have to be a Microsoft tool. Popular ones, Twitter, there's a lot of the Google suites, Gmail, I'm sorry, I said Gmail already, YouTube, but you can also use like on-prem SQL, you can use SharePoint. There's lots, there's literally thousands. There's thousands of connections out there. And if there's not a connection out there, you can also create custom connections too. But that list has grown significantly. I started in this Power Platform maybe 2-3 years ago, and I think we had maybe 500 connections in Power Apps, and I'm pretty sure we're into like the 900s by now.
All right, here's another one. Can you have dependencies so if you are not attending, you would not be able to select lunch?
Correct. Yes, you can definitely add those. There's commands. It's called a Power FX. So it's very similar if you know Excel and how to navigate those formulas. You use very similar formulas in that Power App. So you can say that if the option is not attending, make this box not visible is what we would call it.
Dee, can you recommend any good online resources for learning more about these tools?
There's so many resources out there. Online, I would say YouTube is a good friend of yours. I've got a couple MVPs that I really like that I follow. And there's also the Microsoft Learn is a really good environment too. It's a little bit more of a tailored course, a self-paced course that you can find something that says, help me create my first app. And it will give you step-by-steps on how to create your first app and visuals and visual step-by-step stages with pictures. And then sometimes I've noticed that they're a little bit outdated because like Copilot Studio is the new name for Power Virtual Agents. So there's some hiccups occasionally, but Microsoft Learn is a great spot too.
All right. How do these connect with Dynamics 365? Can it automate the export and validate the checks for data integrity from the ERP software?
I would say yes, but I would want to be a little bit more familiar with the exact scenario. All of
I
those
could,
Microsoft tools work really well together. And I feel like I heard somebody chime in. Is that Anthony?
yeah, hey Dee, I could take that one.
Yeah.
Hey Nathan, yeah, absolutely it can. So you'd be looking for the Dataverse connector. Oh, sorry, I was thrown off there, Emma. Your mic was coming on. So Nathan, you're looking for the Dataverse connector in Power Automate, and with that, you can connect to most of the Dynamics backend data. Similar to the way you would work with an Excel sheet, you could do list rows to in a filter query to kind of narrow down a list of the records you're looking for, depending on if it's accounts, contacts, leads, opportunities. On the ERP side, there's a separate connector for Business Central that you'll find in Power Automate to do pretty much the same thing. So yeah, the answer is yes, and it's pretty easy to work with.
Thanks, Anthony.
So,
No problem.
are there any other last minute questions? Otherwise, we can go ahead and wrap up early. You can head to lunch a little bit early.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, go for
Hi,
it.
my name is Logan. I'm a Strong Tower Wealth. So I'm just wondering, Dee, you mentioned some possible YouTubers that you watch. Would you be able to provide their channels or names by chance?
Sure. I bias wise, like we talked about the Power Platform and being an expert at all of them, I truly enjoy apps. So I really like Shane Young is a good one, and he does focus a lot on the Canvas app side of it. There it is. Somebody put it in the chat for me. Thank you. Guy in the Cube, great guy as well. And actually, I will add, last October, I went to the Power Platform Conference and I actually got to meet all of these guys. So it's a great community. Everybody is very welcoming, very willing to connect, learn, and network with them. There's also Reza. He is a one that I like to follow. And I've actually just commented on a YouTube channel, a YouTube video, and he will respond. April is on there as well. She is, I also saw her at the Power Platform. She's great. I know she's part of like the Power Up community as well in Microsoft.
There was one other question
Thank
in
you.
the chat.
Yeah.
Where can I see the Power Pages demo?
Power Pages, like I said, that's a newer brand to it. It was actually the Portal app within Power Apps. So if you're looking for information on that, I would start with like Googling or trying Portal app pages and on YouTube would be a good spot. All those names in the chat, that is goodness. Those are all very valuable players in that Power Platform community.
Super. Yeah, great info coming in on the chat. Make sure you give that a look after the meeting ends as well. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining and asking your great questions. So as I mentioned, the recording will be sent out to all registrants within the next few days, as well as some other resources. So be on the lookout for that. So with that, thank you again for being here and have a great rest of your day.